This lecture is designed to help you get a grasp of the diverse sources assignment. So the story topic for our diverse sources story is school safety. So let's think about who is affected by this issue of school safety. And when I'm talking about school safety, I'm primarily framing it in terms of like K through 12, although it certainly can expand to college. But who is really affected by this issue, and what voices should we include in our story? So I bet if you made a short list, if like you paused right this moment and made a short list, you would be able to come up with a good list of types of people who would be affected. So let's take a look. Students K through 12, right now, and I would say, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about interviews, but although it certainly, if we're talking about school safety, affects all of those students in terms of interviewing, it's probably better to stick with high school and above, just because it can be a challenge to interview younger kids, and sometimes you need to have their parents around. So I'm thinking of interviewing, like high school, Jean up, but it's also parents, of course, right? Teachers, community leaders, lawmakers, legislators, school board members, that sort of stuff, and then advocates who might be on one side or the other of an issue. So not that you have to interview all of those people, but it's important to think about what voices should we hear, and especially what voices are sometimes omitted from stories, right? So this this is schools, so the students who actually attend those schools should have a voice, and sometimes you'll see stories or read stories where those voices are omitted. So you potentially are doing this assignment from any place in the world. Some of the folks who are traveling internationally. I've designed it so that you can, in fact, do the assignment anywhere. It's just a matter of interviewing people where you are. And you have some latitude in terms of the focus of the story, and we can certainly talk about that online or even on the phone if you'd like. But consider that in some countries, the gun laws are very different in the US. School safety is a very different issue, um, you know, sort of plus or minus where we are here. In the other parts of the US, the issue may be different. In Texas, the laws are one thing. So there's definitely a spectrum. And when you're conducting your interviews for this, it's going to be important to do your research and to have this idea of where you are and how the story that you're going to do might be different than somebody who would be doing it in San Marcos. So there's a lot of research to be done. Some of the potential research is listed for you on Tracks, but certainly go beyond that, and everything on Tracks may not be something that's useful to you. But so much has been written about school safety, and so much of the focus is on guns and gun violence in schools, of course, because of mass shootings, but school safety goes beyond that, of course. So there have been some interesting statistics out about school districts, how many school districts allow staff to carry guns, that sort of thing. And then the LA Times did an interesting story about guns and carrying guns in schools all over the country. So especially if you're traveling elsewhere, this could be an interesting resource. Lots and lots of stuff to look at in terms of research. So the assignment actually requires a minimum of 3 interviews, and really 3 interviews with good quotes, and more if possible. And this is the other thing to think about when you're interviewing is we often talk to multiple people, and sometimes we just don't get what we need, or it's not a very good quote or whatever. So don't settle for, well, I interviewed this person and they said, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that is not, good information for a story. So make sure that you've got 3 solid interviews, and you may have to do more interviews than that to get that, and you may want more. So for the interview, you need each person's full name, right? So first, last name, their age, their occupation, where they live, basically the information that allows you to say, you know, Joanna Gonzalez, who is 35, a 35-year-old mother who lives in San Antonio. Something like that. You need a photo of each person, and this is a photo that you take, not a photo from their Facebook or something like that. This is a photo that you take. You need contact information for each person, so preferably email and a phone number, but at least one or the other. And this is so if you need to follow up and ask a follow-up question, this is a good practice to have. Also, I need it because if I need to check something out, I need to be able to get in touch with them. You also are going to submit this information to Track. So this is actually one separate assignment. But you're going to submit the source quotes, the photo, the contact information, their identification information, all of that. You're going to submit that to Tracks as one assignment. And then you're going to write the story, right? And so this is the end game here, to write a story. So you're going to write a story, 300, 700 words. You're going to consider a good headline for that. You're going to have your byline in your email. And then because we are publishing this on the class website, and this is about writing for the web, you need at least one link in the story. You may have multiple. Depending on how long it is, it would be good to have subheads. I should have put subheads on here, but so subheads. You're going to submit a Word document to Trax, and then you're going to publish it on the class website and put the URL from your specific story into Trax. And I want you to do both those things because A, it is good practice to be able to put your permalink URL and send that to somebody. Also, I want to be able to go over your story in track changes in Word. So that's the assignment in a nutshell. And one of the rules, which is written down everywhere, don't interview mass comm majors, right? And that also means don't interview family, friends, or coworkers. So these need to be interviews with people you do not know, which is a challenge sometimes, I realize, to go out and just talk to strangers, but that's what we do. And to be credible, it needs to be somebody who you have no connection to, right? Like no bias. And when we interview mass comm majors, it's like interviewing your sister. So we need to get outside of the people that we know. And if the story, unless the story specifically involves mass comm majors, none of our stories should have mass comm sources. So what about strategy for conducting the interview? So there's a lot of thought should go into this before you head out the door. So thinking about where you're going to go to seek interviews. It's school shopping time, school starts next month, so there's a whole lot of potential there. So where are you going to go to get a variety of voices? How will you introduce yourself? How will you describe what you're doing? How are you going to take notes and record? Think about how you ask for somebody's name and their contact information, whether you can ask, and also ask about how you take a photo. And can you be recording and do a photo on your phone? It's perfectly okay to stop your recording and then take the photo. These are all things that you have to sort of walk yourself through mentally, especially as you're just starting out on this. So I suggest you actually practice on a friend or colleague, right? That you actually say out loud, "Hi, I'm Kim Fox, and I'm wondering if I could just have a minute of your time. I'm working on a story. I'm a journalism major at Texas State." You explain a little bit, right? So they don't think you're, a survey taker or whatever. Practice that. So it's okay to go with someone else to conduct interviews. Now, if you're in town and you just want to grab another classmate, y'all could get together and a couple of you could go out and do interviews. That's actually how we do it in the face-to-face classes. You go out with partners. It can be just a little less intimidating, especially if this is the first time you've done something like this. So do feel free or to, haul a friend along with you. If you're in San Marcos, you can go anywhere, so you don't have to limit yourself to San Marcos because, I want to have sort of the same rules for everybody. So just because you're in town doesn't mean you have to interview in San Marcos. You must tell the source that you're interviewing them for a story that's going to be published online, right? So it's going to be public. It's not, don't say this is just for a class. That really diminishes the value of what you're doing. And it can make you take it less seriously, right? It can make you sort of not feel like you've got the accountability. It also can make the person have this artificial sense of, oh, this doesn't matter. And then when it's published online, they could, say like, hey, I didn't know you were actually going to publish this. So it's important that you declare that. And then be confident, right? You can do this. You can do this. So let's think about the people who are affected, right? So potential interview subjects. So people who are affected, high schoolers, definitely easy to talk to. Probably, as I said, not younger, not like, elementary school kids, because there are some ethics in terms of interviewing younger children and all of that. College students, from the perspective of college students, some of them just recently come from high school, so that's a perspective. They may have siblings still in school. And certainly if you're talking to high schoolers, you can ask them about their siblings, right, and any concerns they have. Parents, absolutely. Parents, people who look like parents, right, you're kind of trying to gauge, like, would this person be somebody who I might be able to talk to and might know something about this. Do be aware that if you, especially like school shopping and stuff like that, if if there are little kids running around, you might ask to talk to a parent, but you don't want to be asking really difficult questions when the kids are all hanging on them. And so just, there's nothing wrong with talking to parents when their kids are around, absolutely, but just be cognizant of the fact that their kids are there. Teachers would be a good one. And again, it's not like you're going to go out and specifically seek teachers, but you might, right? So you might. If you're on campus, College of Education, nearly next door to Old Main, so that definitely, future teachers could be potentially good sources as well. And again, as we do this, we're being aware of all of the diversity of sources that we want, right? So we want people who are of all different walks of life. So we want various ages, and this would be helpful. So we want to think about how somebody's race or ethnicity may play into this, how their gender may play into this. And we just want to make sure that we hear voices so that we don't, like, somebody doesn't read this story and say, I'm not in this story, right? This story doesn't affect me. I don't see my voice or people like me in the story. We want people to read a story and think, yeah, this reflects our community. So potential questions, I've uploaded a doc to Tracks, and you don't have to ask these questions. These are potentially just a starting point, but it can give you an idea of the kinds of questions you might ask to get effective answers. So with school starting next month, what concerns do you have about school safety? It's better to ask open-ended questions like this. What concerns do you have is not a yes or no answer. So if you just say, do you have concerns? It's easy to say no, yes, whatever. And you may decide to start out with a close-ended question, but this can be more helpful. Have local schools, wherever you are, have made any changes that you know of? Do you think teachers should be armed? So you can ask that basic question because that's, definitely part of the conversation in the U.S. Getting at whether or not they have kids in school or have connections to kids in school. Like, people might be grandparents. They could have, siblings if they're high schoolers or college students. And then be sure you ask the follow-up questions. So in general, ask follow-up questions. Listen to what they say. Ask a follow-up. But especially on the kids thing. So if they have kids in school, you need to know more about the kids, right? How many kids? What are their ages? Has there ever been a problem at their school? Where do they go to school? Do they have specific concerns based on that? It makes sense in something like this to ask if somebody's a gun owner, especially if we're talking about arming teachers. So are they a gun owner? Do they have a carry permit? If you're someplace where those things exist, right? So if you're in Switzerland, I'm not sure what their gun laws are. And then ask your own question or questions, right? Absolutely. You can completely ask your own questions for all of this. Follow-up questions, right? It really is about a conversation. An interview is a conversation. So ask the question, listen to what they say, take it from there. And then once you've sort of let those answers play themselves out, then you can look back at your questions and go for the next question. You may find that all the questions you had really have been answered just in the conversation. You're going to publish on the class website, the class blog, and this will be a great portfolio piece. So that's why you are going to do a wonderful job on this, because this is the kind of thing that can get you an internship. All right, get it done.